Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 692. 692. February the 13th, 2019, Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get to it. Let's see here. Well, we have Trump's former attorney, John Dowd, was interviewed yesterday, and he says it's very likely that the Mueller report will contain no information on President Trump because he didn't do anything. The liberals are in tears. They're in tears. So basically what he's explaining here is that when they do a grand jury investigation, if in the course of the grand jury investigation they don't find any crime for individuals who they investigated, there'll be nothing that they report on because there was no crime. So you don't even know that that person was really even investigated. The only people you're going to hear about are people that were investigated and were found to have committed a crime, which of course we know who most of those people are at this point, if not all. Because we'd be talking about Flynn and Papadopoulos and Rick Gates and these Russian trolls and all these people. And it's possible even that Barr will not even release the actual Mueller report. He might just release a summary report of the Mueller report. So these things are all very likely. But it's very, very likely, as Mr. Dowd says, that there's not going to be a single thing in the Mueller report about Trump personally. That's right. Nothing. Nothing. My. And also happened yesterday, we had MSNBC reporting that Senate Democrats agree that there was no Russia collusion. Not by Trump. That's right, there was no Trump-Russia collusion. Senate Democrats agree on this. Now, this is MSNBC. So what are they going to do now? CNN, MSNBC, many of the networks, as well as the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Daily Beast, and all these various left-wing so-called fake news sites. What are they going to do now? They spent the last 2 years having their viewers tune in every day, believing that that's the day that they were going to get the smoking gun of Trump-Russia collusion. And there's nothing there. There's no there. But they've spent 2 years pumping this up to the viewers. Now what are they going to do? What are they going to talk about? It's all they've been talking about for 2 years. They might have to actually cover some actual news. And they'll get that wrong as well. You can just imagine seeing the ratings just hit the basement, man. Because this is why most of these people tune in. This is why MSNBC has had pretty decent ratings. CNN has not. CNN's been in the tank. But MSNBC managed to hold on to some reasonably good ratings with Rachel Maddow and some of the other shows on MSNBC because they do nothing but talk about Trump-Russia collusion. They just push it and push it and push it. But now that it's obvious that there's not going to be any Trump-Russia collusion, it may not even be a single word in the Mueller report about Trump, and it's likely there will not be if they get an actual report at all. Now MSNBC is stuck, just like all the rest, because they have to come out and admit that the last 2 years, all the experts they've had on, and all their commentary, and all their bluster, and all their facts, and all their breaking news, and all their big stories, and all these things, especially with Maddow. I don't know how many times Maddow started her show with some big lead-in about how they finally, this could be the smoking gun. Never showed up at all, and now she's somehow got to explain that to the viewers. I expect that you're going to see a fairly major drop in the viewership of MSNBC and CNN as a result. You could see readership in a lot of these blogs, the Daily Beast and so on, could probably lose some readers. I mean, this is not going to be, it's not going to go over very well with all these people who have been, it's like promising the kid that you're going to take him to Disneyland all winter long, and then when summer vacation comes along, you decide, I guess we're not going to Disney World after all. How upset the kid would be. And this is kind of what they've done to their viewers. They've gotten their viewers hoping, believing that that this whole thing was going to play out and Trump was going to be impeached and the whole 9 yards. Now they have to come out and admit it was all BS. There wasn't a single shred of evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. The entire thing was a hoax. But on the other side of the ledger, if they want to report on some real news, there is an actual collusion with Russia story out there, but it's the Democrats and the rotten Reverend Clinton. That's the real collusion story. Do you think that they'll start covering that to try to get those ratings back? And as we move further into the Spygate story, because once Uncle Bob wraps it up, and it appears he's just about done, once that happens, you can bet that there's going to be a full court press to now investigate the real crimes by the real perpetrators, which are all over the place in the DOJ, the FBI, the intelligence community, foreign governments. We have all these things going on, lots of evidence out there, and it'll be very interesting to see how MSNBC, CNN, and all the rest, how they handle the real story. Not the fake news, the real news, and the real Russia collusion. We'll be watching to see how that goes. Uh-oh. Judicial Watch has uncovered emails between Clinton lawyer David Kendall and FBI lawyer James Baker, the same day that the FBI was forced to reopen the Clinton email investigation, after FBI investigators working the Anthony Weiner case came upon 655,000 emails between the rotten Reverend Clinton and Huma, which included State Department emails, we assume classified emails as well. And these emails have never really been looked at, as we know, by anyone, and other than the forensic analyst at the FBI. And I don't think the forensic analyst at the FBI, I don't think he actually read the emails, because they, if I remember correctly, they saw the headers and they saw some metadata, but they were not able to go in and look at the emails because they didn't have proper authority. They needed a search warrant. And if you remember what happened, it was this FBI analyst who contacted the DOJ and said, what are the rules here? What are the parameters? Can I look at this stuff, or should I send it over to you guys? Do I need a separate search warrant to be able to look into this? Because I've got 655,000 headers that I'm looking at that are the rotten Reverend Clinton, Huma. Some are State Department. It could be classified information here. And it's on Anthony Weiner's computer, which used to belong to Huma. So what this story is really telling us is that on the day, make sure I get this correct, on the day that Comey was forced to come out and reopen the Clinton email investigation, just a week before the election, that same day, Clinton's lawyer, the rotten Reverend Clinton, her lawyer, her personal lawyer, this is David Kendall. Now, David Kendall has been the Clintons' personal lawyer for decades. They've had criminal lawyers, defense lawyers, all kinds of lawyers, but Mr. Kendall has always been the Clintons' personal lawyer. He knows everything about the Clintons. He's got it all, going all the way back to, the Arkansas days. So isn't that a little unusual, don't you think, that on the very day that Comey is forced to reopen the Clinton email investigation after he's forced by the Southern District of New York, who's threatening to go public, because 3.5 weeks prior, they had notified the FBI, specifically Andy McCabe, about the Weiner laptop. So McCabe sits on it for 3.5 weeks and doesn't do anything. At which point, the FBI agents who are aware of this contact the DOJ and say, hey, if you guys don't do something, we're going to go public. We're going to have a press conference because we're not going to be caught holding the bag here. At which point, Loretta Lynch countered by threatening that if they did something like that, that the DOJ would investigate the cops who supposedly killed that guy, that Mr. Gardner, the choking incident, I guess, where the guy, they were trying to arrest him and he died. I guess he choked out or something. So that's how that all came about. So what the story is telling us is that on the day that Comey was forced to go public and say we're reopening the Clinton email investigation because we found these emails on the Weiner laptop, that same day Clinton's personal lawyer called the general counsel, James Baker. Now, I don't think it's necessarily a crime, but it's certainly not kosher. I don't think that that's typically what you would see happen. Now, if the government contacted Clinton's lawyer and said, "Hey, we've got this new information. We just want you to know this is what's going on," but even then, I wouldn't expect that would happen. I mean, it's an investigation. You know, the government generally doesn't call you and tell you when you're being investigated. But in this particular case, Clinton's lawyer felt comfortable enough that he'd pick up the phone and call the general counsel for the FBI and say, "Hey, I understand you're reopening the investigation against my client," and whatever. At which point there should have been nothing that took place in that phone call, because you're not supposed to say anything. It's an investigation. I imagine that the next thing Judicial Watch is going to try to do is get a hold of the transcript of that phone call if there's any way they can. If they can't, then possibly Congress will get it. Maybe Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz will want to look at it. Maybe Mr. Barr will want to take a look at that. But it's not so much that the phone call occurred. It's probably more about what was said in that phone call. Were any assurances made? Were any questions asked of Clinton's lawyer for any information? Was there anything else that might not pass the sniff test? It's very shady, is what it is. It's very shady, and it needs to be looked at more, and something tells me it will be. So yeah, the FBI, McCabe was notified about the Weiner laptop on September the 28th. But Comey didn't come out and announce that they were reopening the investigation until October 28th, which is exactly 30 days. So basically McCabe sat on it for 3.5 weeks without saying really anything. And then once he did, the FBI found themselves in a difficult position because, as Comey says, they had to make a decision on whether or not, and of course we know from the story that there was a lot of argument and debate over whether or not they should reopen the investigation. Were they obligated to open the investigation? And if so, should McCabe recuse himself because he sat on it for 3.5 weeks before saying anything? So there was a lot going on. And it also appears that there was an offer by Lisa Page made to the Department of Justice for some kind of a quid pro quo. She was asking them, I guess, if she could change the classification on an email, get the okay to change the classification on an email in exchange for something that they would do for the DOJ. So, you do this for us and we'll do this for you. Clearly, it was an effort by Lisa Page to protect the Rotten Reverend Clinton so that they didn't have to admit that there were classified emails on Weiner's laptop that should not have been there. There's a lot going on with this. This is one of them little bitty stories that could turn into a big story, because it opens up several other doors that lead other places. This is one of them stories that you pull on the string and it unravels the whole yarn. So I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people scrutinizing this. But there is a paragraph in the book, what's the name of his book? Yeah, Higher Loyalty. And the former director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, the Dishonorable James Comey, in his book, he wrote the following in a paragraph in his book. He says, and this is Comey talking about what was going through his mind when he learned about the Weiner laptop, which contained all these 655,000 emails that were Clinton, Huma Abedin, State Department. And this is what Comey says was going on with him once he was made aware of this laptop and what he should do about it. this is his thinking, and this is directly from his book. Quote, assuming, as nearly everyone did, that Hillary Clinton would be elected president of the U.S. in less than 2 weeks, what would happen to the FBI, the Department of Justice, or her own presidency if it was later revealed after the fact that she was still the subject of an FBI investigation? What would happen to the FBI, the DOJ, or her own presidency if it was later revealed after the fact that she was still the subject of an FBI investigation? This is what's going through his mind. He's trying to determine whether or not they should take any action, because what would happen if they start this investigation, restart this investigation, and Hillary becomes president? At some point, they got to find out that she's still under this FBI investigation because of the classified emails on Weiner's laptop. So he's very concerned about what would happen to Clinton's presidency if, in fact, they had to reveal after the fact that she was still under investigation. Now, what blows my mind about this comment by Comey is that at the very time when he's writing this and telling us what he's thinking about, Trump has already been under investigation by the FBI for 4 months. He wasn't the least bit concerned about what would happen if Trump won the presidency and they had to tell him that he was under criminal investigation. A lie that Comey told when being interviewed in front of Congress. He said that the president was not under investigation when in fact he was and had been since July 31st. That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So he had no concern about the fact that Trump could be elected, but I guess he's saying in this statement that everyone believed that Hillary was going to be elected, and if she's going to be elected president, we certainly can't have her find out that she's still under investigation or that she is under investigation. We can't have that. We can't have a president coming in and being under investigation. But if that's the case, then why, after Trump won the election, why didn't Comey go, uh-oh, now we have a president, Trump, and he is under investigation? At which point, you would think, based on his thinking here, he should have immediately come forward and notified the president. Immediately. Said, Mr. President, we need to sit down with your lawyer and explain some things. You're under investigation. But he didn't. They continued to hide the fact that he was under investigation. Multiple investigations. And they continued to run a cover-up operation after the fact, while simultaneously still trying to get him impeached. Absolutely amazing. Man, there's a lot to dig into here. You could just go a lot of places with this. Man, oh man. And the thing about this is, as far as we know, no one has still gone in and looked at everything that's on this Weiner laptop. We know that Peter Ben Strokinus was given the task to look at it. But from what we heard in the hearings and everything that we've read up to this time, there was no way that Peter Ben Strokinus and two of the female lawyers, Mueller and the other woman, could have read through 655,000 emails, or that they even had the ability to even do that. From a forensic point of view, did they even have the ability to go in and do that? According to the guy at the FBI, they did not, because of corrupted metadata. So it's very likely that there are still over 500,000, probably over 600,000, 500,000 emails on that Weiner laptop, wherever the hell it is. I don't even know where it's at now. Maybe back, Weiner may have it back by now. I don't know. But it's still very, very likely that probably a huge percentage of the emails on that laptop have never been looked at, other than by the FBI agent who originally saw what he saw in the headers and the metadata, but was never able to go in and read the body of the email because he didn't have a search warrant to do it. Absolutely unbelievable. So you have various things going on with this particular find by Judicial Watch. And I'm sure that I've already forwarded this over to some committees in the Congress, certainly on the Senate side, maybe the Senate Judiciary or something like that. And I'm sure that maybe Whitaker is taking a look at this. William Barr certainly, I would think, will be taking a look at this as soon as he gets in there. He'll be wanting to dig into this a little bit. And they're probably, I would have to assume, that they're going to call Baker back for questioning. I have to assume that they're going to call Comey back for questioning. McCabe, certainly Lisa Page, she's got to explain this quid pro quo that she's describing in her texts, having to do with cutting a deal to change classified nature of emails on this laptop. So there's a lot of things going on with this that could really unravel this thing and blow it wide open again. Unbelievable. So everybody's talking today about the fact that this group who got together to put together this deal for the immigration bill to keep the government from shutting down and the whole 9 yards. You keep hearing reports all day long that they've reached a tentative agreement, but then you hear Trump being interviewed. He doesn't like it. A bunch of other Republicans, they don't like it. A lot of people don't like it, but they're deciding on what they should do. Now, this bill has to pass the House, and I'm not so sure it will. It may not get enough Republican votes to pass the House. It may not get enough Democrat votes. It's very possible that this committee that they set up, they may have reached an agreement between themselves, but the bill still has to pass in the House. And then it's got to pass in the Senate. Now, I think if it does pass both houses, and I think because they don't want to have a government shutdown, they'll probably begrudgingly sign on to it. And the leadership on both sides will probably be saying, hey, we don't want another government shutdown, blah, 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 blah. Just suck it up and sign off on it. And we'll take care of dealing with the PR. So my guess is that's what they're going to try to do, is get both members, Republicans and Democrats, the leadership, try to get all their members to sign on to it. And then the leadership will say, don't worry, we'll take the heat for it, and we'll do the explaining, we'll do the PR, don't worry. Just get it to the president by Friday. And at this point, I would say if it passes, certainly I think Trump will sign the bill. And the reason is very simple. The things that he's not going to get nearly as much money as he wanted for the wall. As I understand, it's only like $1.6 billion. He wanted 5.7. Of course, we know about the 30,000 beds that they want to take away from ICE, so these people have to be released back in the country. We know that Trump and Republicans don't like that. But the fact is, as we've already learned, there are other sources, other places where Trump can go to get other money, which doesn't require Congress. So I think that what will likely happen, because I don't think they do want to shut down, is that they'll go ahead and sign on to this bill. They'll get this bill which appropriates this money, and then Trump will turn around after the fact, take what's there, and then he'll go other places to get other money to fix the problem with the 30,000 beds so that they do get the funding for the 30,000 beds and they don't have to take a hit on that, and Trump will find other money in addition to what he's getting here. I think the idea is that they all want to avoid another shutdown. The Democrats don't want to totally, they want to save some face, but they realize that they are going to lose a little bit on the deal. Republicans accepting that they're going to lose a little bit on the deal, and this will get it off the front page. That's all they care about, because both Democrats and Republicans know once Trump signs it, even if he's not happy about it, once he signs it, then he can turn around and go get other money, other places to fill the gaps of what he didn't get in the actual bill. This is nothing more than both parties trying to avoid a government shutdown because neither one of them want the negative press to go along with it. And the president doesn't want that either. So I think that they'll probably all suck it up and sign the bill, and then shortly afterwards Trump will go other places to get the additional money he wants for all the other things that he needs. So I think that that's probably what's going to happen. But then again, it's very possible you could have some Democrats and Republicans who don't go along with it and don't pass the bill. So we'll find out, but I think it's most likely that they will pass the bill, and that Trump will go other places to get the things that are not in the bill, to get the money that's not in the bill, to get what he wants. Ultimately, the bottom line, Trump won. Trump won. He won on the government shutdown. He's going to win on this bill. He is going to get the wall and everything else. And his approval rating has gone up 9 points. Madam Botox has went down, and she's never recovered. As far as I know, she's still sitting at 28%. And then we're getting this other story today that McConnell is going to bring up the new Green Deal for a vote on the Senate floor to force Democrats into voting yay or nay on the new Green Deal. Now, it has no chance of passing because no Republican's going to vote for it, I'm sure. But it'll be interesting to see because you got quite a few presidential candidates on the Democrat side who are going to have to take a vote on this bill. And so they know it will never pass, so it's safe in that regard. But still, voting for it is going to mean that Trump is going to be able to use that against them in the 2020 election. All the things that were so horrible in that Green Bill, they either have to sign on to it or not. If they don't sign on to it, then they're going to face heavy abuse from their base and probably will not be the Democratic nominee. I think to be the Democratic nominee, these senators are going to have to sign on to this. And if they do, then Trump will use that against them in 2020. So I'm sure McConnell has other motives too, because he's a tricky little weasel, and he's a deep stater, as we all know. Twitch McConnell is not really our friend. He just has no choice to go along with things because Trump's so popular in Kentucky. But still, it is kind of funny that McConnell is going to force a vote on the new Green Deal and force these Democratic senators to take a vote, to vote. He's going to force them to vote against it and see if they will. And knowing good and well, they really can't without being non-viable candidates in their party. The base of their party will just crucify them if they vote against Ocasio-Cortez's bill. Then we've got Kamala Harris saying that she got high and listened to Snoop and Tupac in college. Now, the only problem is that she was in college 10 years before Snoop and Tupac were even, known to anyone. Their careers weren't even started at that point. So what's going on here? Well, she's lying. That's what's going on here. Now, one of two things. Either she was getting high and listening to Snoop and Tupac, which would have meant that would have been at the time that she was a district attorney, or she actually was getting high back in college, and she thought she was listening to Tupac and Snoop, but it was someone else. It's hard to explain, but again, this is the type of problems that you have when you make these kind of statements. Keep in mind, she was a former district attorney and a prosecutor during the time period that Snoop and Tupac were popular. So if she was listening to Snoop and Tupac at that time, she was a district attorney, putting people in jail for using weed. That's a tricky position to talk yourself out of, don't you think? We'll see how she backs out of that one. Of course, we have Devin Nunes saying that he is going to be reviewing all of the witness testimony and all the documents and all the evidence from their investigation they did in the House Intelligence Committee in 2017. They're going to be looking also at all the things that were compiled by Goodlatte and Gowdy's committee in 2017. He'll be working with Jordan and others to go through there and see if what they can find. And of course, they'll be looking for lies, and they're going to find a lot of them, especially from Comey, Glenn Simpson, and others who they interviewed. They're going to find lots of lies. And Nunes says that they are going to make criminal referrals, and by that time, it will be William Barr who will be the AG. Let's see if William Barr does the same thing that Rodenstein did when they sent over those criminal referrals. Well, it appears that Mario the Pious, the governor of New York, Cuomo, apparently his popularity in the polls has plummeted after he signed the late-term abortion bill. And that's in New York. And I told you, a week ago, only about 13% of the people in the country support late-term abortion. It's not popular. But he signed a late-term abortion bill, and they turned it into a celebration. It looked like a birthday party or something. But his popularity, since he signed that, and he was just elected recently, his popularity has dropped from 51 to 43, down 8 points. Down 8 points since he signed this bill for late-term abortion. Not good for Mario the Pious. And, of course, some people are noting that Whoopi Goldberg has been absent from The View since her partner there, Joy Behar, who's a nut, since Joy Behar's blackface photo reemerged. Is there trouble there in liberal paradise? Possibly. Also, a pretty interesting story a couple days ago. I didn't have time to get to it. A very rare letter written by George Washington to a Pennsylvania politician named Richard Peters has surfaced. It is now up for auction. The starting bid is $140,000. In this letter, George Washington praises God for the ratification of the Constitution. Okay, and we got more Kamala Harris. She wants reparations, or supports reparations for slavery. I think she might still be smoking some of the hippie lettuce, because that's stupid. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's not going to be reparations. There's nobody alive today who was a slave. I don't even think there's anyone alive today whose parents were slaves or even grandparents were slaves. So, if we could go back to dig these people up out of the grave from 150 years ago who actually were slaves, we probably owe them something, but not, not their great-great-great-grandchildren. I don't think so. It's not going to fly. But again, Kamala is obviously smoking lots of the good stuff, and she's nuts and stoned all at the same time. Well, Michael Moore's career continues into the his career dive continues into the trash bin. Has his latest show, his new TV show that he just got, his new TV show on TBS has already been canceled. Already been canceled. So his last 2 movies were flops, and now his TV show has been canceled. Hopefully we've seen the end of Michael Moore. If I never see Michael Moore again, or hear about Michael Moore again, I'll be happy as a lark. Way overrated. He had one decent movie, Bowling for Combine, I think it was, or something. I didn't like the movie or anything. Sicko was stupid. I mean, the guy sucks. If it wasn't the fact that he's a liberal activist, no one would go to his movies or watch his movies or buy anything this guy puts out as garbage. He's a hack. And, of course, we have Governor Northam making a statement on, I guess it was on Monday or Sunday or Monday, where he said, I'm not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Because he says Virginia needs someone with a moral compass. Governor Northam, Virginia needs someone with a moral compass. Oh, God. This is the dude. Remember where all this started? Before the blackface, before the sex allegations against the lieutenant governor, before any of that. It was Northam what put him under the spotlight. He's a guy we've never heard of before. What got him in the national news and made him a household name was when he came out and made that description of post-birth abortion. The guy comes out for post-birth abortion, and now he's telling us that Virginia needs someone with a moral compass? Post-birth abortion, moral compass. I'm pretty sure the two can't exist in the same universe. My God, the Democrats, and I'm going to make a prediction. I've seen enough. I don't have to wait for the primary, the Democratic primary. I don't have to wait for any more economic news. I don't have to wait a year and 10 months. I don't have to wait any longer. I can just tell you right now, man. I lived through the Dukakis and Mondale candidacies for the Democrats. I lived through that, and these guys got blown out. They lost 48 and 49 states, and the group that we have now You look at the Democratic field; they're far more to the left than Dukakis or Mondale. I'm telling you right now, Trump is going to win in 2020 in a big way, a landslide, big landslide. That's what I see coming. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. Guys, have a good night. Bye.